It was a beautiful Monday. The sky was perfectly blue, without a single cloud. It was hot, as always in August. I was on the second floor of the girls' school in Hiroshima, helping to dismantle wooden partitions to create space for emergency storage. The war was tough, but we, young students, wanted to contribute. My best friend, Yuki, was by my side. We were laughing at something silly I don't even remember anymore. At 8:14 a.m., the air raid siren went off. It wasn't uncommon. American planes often passed by, doing reconnaissance. A minute later, the alarm was canceled. False alarm, we thought. Yuki went back to the window to get some fresh air. I had my back to her, carrying a board. Then, at 8:15 and 17 seconds, everything changed. First came the light. It wasn't normal light. It was as if 1,000 suns exploded at once. A white-blue flash so intense that it penetrated my closed eyelids. I felt the immediate heat burning my skin. There was no sound at first. Only that impossible light. Then came the shockwave. The building shook violently. Glass shattered into millions of pieces. Walls collapsed. I was thrown against the wall like a rag doll. The world spun. Darkness, dust, a deathly silence. When I regained consciousness, I don't know if it was seconds or minutes later, I was buried under rubble, wood, plaster, glass. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. "Yuki," I screamed. "Yuki." Silence. Then a weak moan beside me. "Akiko." I can single quotes T.Z. Yuki was alive. But when I finally managed to crawl to her, I saw that her face was completely burned. Her beautiful eyes, had been destroyed by the flash. She had been looking directly at the window when it happened. I managed to pull Yuki from the rubble. Our school uniforms were in tatters. My left arm was burned, the skin peeling off in strips. But I could still walk. When we exited the building, the world was over. Hiroshima simply no longer existed. Where buildings, shops, houses, and temples once stood, now there was only total destruction. Fires everywhere. The mushroom cloud of smoke rising to the sky, blocking the sun, and the people. God in heaven, the people. They wandered like ghosts. Skin melted hanging from their arms, hair singed, faces unrecognizable. Many were completely naked, their clothes vaporized by the heat. They walked in silence, arms outstretched, as if in a trance. "Water, please, bought Wot, they whispered. A man held his own eyes in his hands. A woman carried a charred baby. A little girl sat in the middle of the street, calling for her mother, her body covered in burns. I guided Yuki through the smoldering rubble. We tried to get to the Motoyasu River, where we thought it might be safer. Every step was agony. The ground was still hot enough to burn our feet. At the river, the scene was even more terrifying. Hundreds of people had thrown themselves into the water to escape the heat and fires. Many were already dead, floating. Others died while we watched, their burns too severe. Yuki died the next morning. Her last word was her mother's name. I held her as she passed, sitting by the riverbank, surrounded by thousands of other bodies. I was only 16 years old. Her dream was to be a teacher. In the days that followed, the real horror was revealed. People who seemed to have survived began to die in strange ways, unexplained bleeding, hair falling out in clumps. purple spots on their skin, uncontrollable vomiting. We didn't know then, but it was the radiation, the invisible disease that would continue killing for decades. My mother survived. I found her 3 days later in an improvised shelter. My father and my younger brother were closer to the epicenter. We never found their bodies. They were probably vaporized instantly. In a way, they were lucky. Their death was quick. We lost 90% of our family members. Uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents. 70,000 people died instantly. Another 70,000 died in the weeks and months that followed. An entire city wiped out in 1 second. I survived, but I carried Hiroshima with me forever. The burns on my arm left deep scars. For years, I suffered from extreme fatigue, recurring fevers, blood problems. But the worst scars weren't physical. For decades, I couldn't talk about that day. The nightmares came every night, the flash of light, the burned faces. Yuki's voice calling for her mother. In 1952, I married. I had 2 children. I lived a seemingly normal life. But inside, I was still that 16-year-old girl, holding her best friend's hand as she died. For years, we, the survivors of Hiroshima, were discriminated against. People feared us, thinking radiation was contagious. Hibakusha women had difficulty getting married, fearing they would pass diseases to their children. We carried the shame of having survived. Today, at 95 years old, I dedicate my life to telling this story. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but for the memory of Yuki and all those who disappeared that day, the memory of a city that was erased, the memory of the absolute horror that nuclear weapons represent. I saw Hiroshima disappear in 1 second. I saw what humanity is capable of doing to itself. And now, while I am still alive, I beg the world, never forget. Never let this happen again. Because if you forget, it will happen. In memory of the more than 200,000 victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, may their deaths never be forgotten. May their stories inspire peace.